Okay, Parsha Bo, Perek Yud, Pasuk Aleph. It says, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe Bo el Paro, Ki ani hikbadti es lebo, ve'es lev avadav lama'an shte osai ela bekirbo. It says here, Hashem said to Moshe, Come to Pharaoh, for I have made his heart and the heart of his servants stubborn, so that I shall place these signs of mine in his midst. And in his midst, here is Bekirbo. Bekirbo. And the Ben Ish Chai comes along, and it says here, so Lama'an shte o sasai ela Birkibo, so that I shall place my signs in his midst. It says Hashem could have brought one major plague upon the Egyptians and kept it until they allowed Bnei Israel to leave, even if it was against their will. Instead, Hashem brought a plague upon them, and he made the hearts of Pharaoh and his servants more stubborn, which resulted in additional plagues. The reason this was done is because the departure from Egypt was to be an example for the future Geula, the redemption, as we're told in Micha 7:15, Ki me ze secha me'eretz Mitzrayim ar enu nifarlot. It says, as in the days of your exodus from the land of Egypt, I shall show him wonders. In other words, we shall witness all the miracles that Hashem brought upon the Egyptians, and that was the reason that Hashem increased them. The redemption from Egypt was from Paro and his people, whereas the future Geula will be from Esav, which is Edom. And what does this mean? So Moshe Rabbeinu, he is actually stuck in Mitzrayim. He's in Mitzrayim, in the Sitra Achra. They're not in Israel. They're in a place of idolatry and filth. But Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that's going to be a part of taking down Mitzrayim. But how does this allude to Esav, where the rabbis actually say that Esav will last until the last days where Mashiach rises up? And it says the word Birkibo in his midst is a remez to the letters which are used to write the name Paro in full. So the Ben Ish Chai actually says, if we take the letter Pei and spell it out in full, Pei, Hey, the underlined letter, the out letters, Hey equals 5. The letter Pei, and then we have Resh, which spelled in full is Resh, Yud, Shin. If we take the Yud and Shin, that equals 310. So now we have 315. And the letter Ein, the when spelled out full, is Yud Nun, which is Yud is 10, Nun is 50, so you have 60. So now you have 365. Let's see here. And then for the letter Aleph, Hey, you have the Aleph equals 1, and for the letter Hey, for the total 376. Okay, so here you have the letters 376, 310, 360, that's 370 plus 5, 370 plus the Aleph is 1, 376, which is the numerical value of Esav, 376. And he says, now we can explain the above pasuk, Bo el Paro, Ki ani hikbadti es lebo. Come to Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart. And this way Hashem could bring the additional plagues, Birkibo, in his midst, to mean on Esav. And the remez to this is from the letters which are the fillers of his name, which are written in full as shown above. In other words, Hashem was saying that whatever he was doing in Egypt, he will do in the future, redemption from the hands of Esav, which is stated in Micah. And Esav represents Rome. It represents the West. It represents Christianity. And who else is going to arrive in the midst? Just like Moshe Rabbeinu took down Egypt, this is going to be Mashiach, who comes from, or is stuck in the filth, in the klipot, the Sitra Achra. He is going to be the one who rises within the midst to take down Esav. And what's interesting is the Rabbeinu Bechaya actually talks about how Hashem, he redeemed Israel. He was the one who personally took Israel out of Mitzrayim. And how did he do this? How did he do this with a place that's filled with idolatry, filled with impurity and filth? And Rabbeinu Bechaya, he quotes Shemot Rabbah, the Midrash, and it says here, to give a parable, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, as saying that Israel was on a very high level. If God agreed to manifest himself in a place of impurity and abominations for the sake of his people, how could this be? And he says, he gives a parable. A priest, a Kohen, who had been given some teruma, a tithe, which is holy and not accessible to the ordinary layman. This teruma, say, had fallen into a graveyard, a place inaccessible to a priest by law. The priest pondered his problem, saying that he was certainly not permitted to defile himself by entering the cemetery. On the other hand, he was desperately dependent on that teruma so that he could not forego it. He decided that it was preferable for him to temporarily defile himself and subsequently to purify himself than to die from starvation by foregoing this teruma. And he quotes Yirmiyah chapter 2 verse 3 that Israel, the Jewish people, are God's teruma. And they are holy, and this is the first of God's harvest. The Jewish people's present situation was that they were in a vast cemetery. And Rabbeinu Bechaya says, read Exodus chapter 12, verse 30, where it actually says here, it says, let's see here, if we go to chapter 12, verse 30, it says, and Pharaoh arose at night, he and his servants and all Egypt, and there was a great outcry in Egypt, and for there was not a house where there was not a corpse. It was like one big cemetery. One big cemetery. And Rabbeinu Bechaya says, if God would not contaminate himself briefly in order to salvage the Jewish people, he would have to forego their existence permanently. Hence, he decided to temporarily relax his rule and reveal himself in a place that normally was not suitable for such a revelation, in order to secure the continued existence of his teruma, the Jewish people. After God had taken the Israelites out of Egypt, he said to Aaron, please perform rites of purification for me. And this is the meaning of Vayikra chapter 16 verse 33 and 16:16. He shall provide atonement for the sanctuary, or he shall provide atonement upon the tent of meeting and the altar. This is amazing. Not that Hashem is actually a body or someone that's inhuman or any kind of way, but this is that Hashem is willing, if he were to be a man, if he were to manifest himself, he would go to the ends of the earth to save his people, his beloved people. He would go into a place where he should not be, to rescue and purify us, to redeem us. And this is how great Hashem is, that he was willing to lower himself. You know, a prophet can suspend a mitzvah temporarily, and Hashem in a way is following his own halakha. And so Hashem does this, and this is also the concept of Mashiach. The Mashiach is like he's the agent of like the one who sent him. And Mashiach, he became sin who knew no sin. He humbled himself where he went into the state of impurity so that we could be pure. And this is what it says in the book of Hebrews, that he was made a little bit lower than the angels. And you see, Hashem is with us. He's with us. And that's why it says, come to Pharaoh, because Hashem is everywhere. And also that when Israel is in exile, so is the Shekinah. I thought this was pretty amazing from the Ben Ish Chai and the Rabbeinu Bechaya. So I just thought I'd share this little gem. May you all have a good week. Shavua Tov.